Welcome back. Joining us now on the show is Vandana Hari of Vanda Insights. Vandana, hi, good to have you. And first of all, your reaction to the surprise output cut that we've seen come in from OPEC before the meeting on a Sunday. What really was going through?
Yeah, good afternoon, Manisha. Indeed, I think the market is going to take its time wrapping its head around, why OPEC did this. And while, of course, the initial knee-jerk reaction has been bullish because we're looking at a potential supply cut of up to 1.7 million barrels per day, if you also include the Russian cut, which has been ongoing since March. Well, that's been the initial reaction. There's a lot of a long string of consequences down the line. I think that the market will need time to actually process and then derive what is then a fair price for crude, because I think right now one can see the upside, the bullish story, but then there's questions like what is OPEC seeing in terms of demand, and how bad is it for OPEC to have had made such a surprising decision, and as you just mentioned, in so quickly, and putting it out into the market on a Sunday, just one day before the JMMC meeting, which is today. They didn't even wait for that meeting.
Absolutely. So, Vandana, just going through with what you said, that OPEC perhaps is looking at a weak demand coming forward. We haven't seen China's rebound very even, and the banking crisis, I mean, we're not out of those woods yet. So what's your sense on what is your outlook for demand for 2023?
Okay, so, on the demand front and specifically Chinese rebound, for sure it has been disappointing. Again, it depends on, which side of the market spectrum you stand. If you were very bullish at the start of the year, then obviously it was a disappointment, and we had been saying, for instance, at Vanda Insights from early on that, we expect Chinese demand to come back very, very gradually. It will, it's just a massive engine which will take time to gear up and ratchet up. But the other disappointment for oil bulls was, and to some extent perhaps for OPEC Plus, was also that the Russian supply disruptions were not half as bad as had been feared last year. And then we had in recent weeks the US saying that it's not planning to buy back any oil for its SPR as well. So one by one, every bullish or potentially bullish prop for crude prices just disappeared from the scene. But I'm still surprised at the OPEC Plus decision, especially given that crude had been recovering. Yes, it slid to like 15-month lows. We saw Brent below $73 just a couple of weeks ago at the height of the banking crisis. But as the fears over the banking crisis faded, crude had, it ended just below $80 on Friday. So it is surprising. The story behind that is, OPEC wants to be preemptive, proactive, act in advance of an anticipation. But then again, the question remains, how bad is it anticipating demand to be in order to have taken such a decision?
All right. But we know one thing for sure, Vanda, that OPEC is back in action and back in control, clearly, with the way the prices have reacted. What's your own sense for the prices going forward, though?
So, again, today's knee-jerk reaction, as I mentioned, it remains to be seen whether it still holds. These kind of price gains hold, especially in the coming weeks and months. We have the Fed next policy meeting coming up at the beginning of May. And, inflation remains a major concern. The Fed continuing to tighten, the ECB continuing to tighten monetary policy as a result of stubborn inflation. Those concerns are very much in place. And while the banking crisis has abated for the time being, we just don't know, where the next financial shock could come from. So in general, I think the broader financial markets still remain nervous. There's a lot of concern over economic growth, fears of recession. So if that risk appetite continues to wane, I dare say there would be a downward pressure again on oil prices. I'm not substantially revising my expectations for this year. As I've been saying, last year, Brent averaged around $100 a barrel. For this year in 2023, I'm expecting it to be $15 to $20 lower year on year on average.
Okay, all right, Manisha as well as Vandana. Thank you very much for those insights onto crude prices, which has been a big concern considering the jump that we've seen in the past day odd. With that, it's a wrap on Halftime Report. This is Lunch. Up next, stay tuned.
इस बार टाटा आईपीएल